Hello, hello, hello. September is Suicide Prevention Month, and the theme is Together in Strength, Dignity, Hope, and Purpose. We're going to share a series of live streams devoted to prevention of suicide. And today, I'm going to share with you three useful facts about suicide that will help you save a life. And we're going to do all of that in just one moment. Hi there, and welcome to Stress Talk. This is the place where we help women over 40 to live healthier lives through strategic stress management and solution focused self care. I'm Marcyline Bailey, and I'm your host for tonight. I'm so glad that you joined me. Yes, September is Suicide Prevention Month, and I have a lot of things to talk about and share with you around that. You know, suicide is one of those things that no one wants to talk about, and we don't talk about it until we're confronted with it. Meaning, someone we know, someone we love has died by suicide. A lot of the times, there have been signs. Sometimes there are no signs. But what's left is the impact that the death has on the family, friends, as well as the communities that the individual belonged to. You know, it's real interesting because suicide is the definition is suicide is a death caused by injuring oneself with the intent to die. We know that a suicide attempt is when someone hurts themselves, um, intending to end their life. However, they don't die because of those actions. And over the course of the next few weeks, I want to share with you and hopefully empower you with information as well as um, resources that you can use or that you can have in your bag of tricks if you're ever faced or come in contact with someone who is actively thinking about killing themselves, dying by suicide, or if someone else needs the information, you'll have it and then you can share it with them. So before we get started, I always have a few things that I'd like to ask for you to do for me. I'd like for you to follow, and subscribe to ML Bailey Consultants on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. That's where you're going to get a lot of information about this particular topic, as well as other topics around strategic stress management and solution focused self care. Here's my tab link, the place where you'll find resources for you. Resources that should be helpful. I'm hoping that they are helpful. And give me some feedback about it. When you go there, give me some feedback. Let me know what you're thinking. Here's the website. Yes, it does need to be updated. However, you can find out more information about me. So let's get started with our topic today. Our topic today is three useful facts about suicide that will help you save a life. And those of you who follow me and watch my somewhat weekly live streams know that I always like to give you some foundational information. And that's what I'm going to do today. Give you some foundational information. Um, Again, this is a topic that we don't like to talk about. We don't want to talk about it. It's sad and it's hurt. It hurts. But it's also good information to know, especially if it's information that will help you to save someone's life. So let's jump into it. First of all, I want to share with you facts, okay? And here's some facts by the numbers. Um, and why is this important for you to know? It's important for you to know because I want you to have an understanding of how prevalent death by suicide is. It's very prevalent. Thank you for the heart. And it is, it's very prevalent. We often don't think about it, right? And we don't know how impactful it is because we don't look at the statistics. But I want to share some of these statistics with you. And these statistics are from 2023. So 2 years ago, um, we we aggregated this information. Did you know that suicide is the eighth leading cause of death for people between the ages of 10 and 64? 10, yes. A 10-year-old is a child who is in the fourth grade. A child who is in the fourth grade. Okay. 10-year-old is a child who's in the fourth grade. So for individuals between the ages of 10 and 64, it is the leading cause of death. But check this out. It's the second leading cause of death for individuals between the ages of 10 and 34. Those are young people, are babies. 10-year-old, that's a baby. But when you think about a 34-year-old, that's a young person who should be doing wonderful things and experiencing wonderful things in their lives. So, again, it's the eighth leading cause of death for individuals between the ages of 10 and 64, but the second leading cause of death for individuals between the ages of 10 and 34. In 2023, over 49,000 people died by suicide, and that translated to one death every 11 minutes. So if you just checked your phone, just set your phone here, I'm going to set a timer. Here's my timer, right? And I'm going to set it for 11 minutes. And when it goes off, yeah, I set it so that I think we can hear it. So here it is. Can you see that? I've set it for 11 minutes. And let me put the sound on. 11 minutes, and you should hear it when it goes off, okay? So I'm going to start it. So 11 minutes, one death every 11 minutes. That is remarkable to me. Also, what was found is that an estimated 12.8 million adults seriously thought about death by suicide. 12.8 million adults. There were 3.7 million planned deaths by suicide, meaning that people planned and attempted to die by suicide. 3.7 million people, and 1.5 million attempted death by suicide. So 3.7 million people planned it, and 1.5 million people attempted it. So this is in the United States. We're not talking about around the world. We're talking about the United States here, right here. And that was in 2023. The facts are that we have people who are very vulnerable for different reasons. And because of that, we want to be more aware of what we are aware of, our ability to help others. Now, I also need to say that um, I'm sure that there are those of you out there who might be watching this, those of you who have experience with a loved one or people that you know who have suicidal ideation or suicidal thoughts or have attempted it. And I want you to know that there is help out there. There is help. There is the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, and it's very simple. It's similar to the 911. To 911, when you call 911, you get the emergency personnel, right, that come to you. 988 is a lifeline that you can call, you can text, or you can chat using 988. You don't have to dial an area code. You don't have to dial 7 digits. All you have to do is dial 988. This is a number, just put it in your mind, just like you're familiar with the 911 emergency. You can call 988 as for with you to call. You can talk to someone, you can text someone, or you can chat with someone. So I want you to know that that is available, and I will also share that at the end of our stream today. Um, I actually called it on behalf of someone else not too long ago, and they were very helpful to me in guiding me as to how to help this person. So let's go on. So I shared some facts by numbers, the facts by numbers with you. I'd like to also share with you additional facts that can help you help others. So let's talk about risk factors. Oftentimes, when I'm um, talking to people about death by suicide, um, they say, "I don't know. I didn't know what to look for, or I didn't. I knew things might have been difficult, but I didn't know. I never thought they would do this. I just didn't know what I was seeing." And I will go into some signs in a later live stream. I just want to give you some basic information today. But when we talk about risk factors, we're talking about those characteristics of the environment that increases the likelihood that a person will die by suicide. Um, I also probably need to explain the reason I'm saying die by suicide as opposed to saying the phrase that many of us became accustomed to hearing, which is committed suicide. That's a phrase that we've heard for years, that a person commits suicide. Um, First of all, uh, we want to remove the blame and the anguish from the individual as well as the family. And when somebody's in a car accident, we don't say that they committed a car accident. When someone has a heart attack, we don't say they committed a heart attack. If somebody has a stroke, we don't say, well, they committed a stroke. We don't do that. Um, we say that they died by stroke. Um, they died by due to a car accident. They died due to a heart attack. But we don't say they committed it. Now, one might say, well, it's different. Well, not really, because if you're eating fatty foods and drinking and smoking, that affects your heart, and it can contribute to heart disease. So, but we don't say a person committed um, died by, we don't say that they committed heart disease or heart attack. We say things like they died due to um, heart disease, right? So that's why we say death by suicide or died by suicide. So let's talk about risk factors. Okay. And I shared with you the definition of risk factors, those characteristics of the environment that increases the likelihood that a person may die by suicide. If a person has had prior attempts, that is a risk factor. Prior attempts cause that person to um, um, may cause that person to attempt again. One of the things we want to make sure of is that that person is seeing a mental health professional. If the person is on medication, that they are taking their medications as prescribed, that they are involved in activities of a social nature, positive, healthy social nature, that they have connections with their community, with individuals with whom they trust. Another risk factor is the misuse and abuse of alcohol or other drugs. Um, yeah, and um, sometimes individuals will accidentally die die due to the use or overuse of alcohol and other drugs. Doesn't mean that it's called a death by suicide, but it is an accidental death due to the misuse and abuse of alcohol and drugs. Mental conditions, mental disorders such as depression and mood disorders. An individual who is extremely depressed, um, it's very difficult for them. It's very hard. That's why it's important for that individual to have regular appointments with a mental health professional. And again, if they're taking medications to um, to help that condition, they need to take those medications regularly and as prescribed. Access to lethal means. One of the questions that we ask when we're doing a screening to determine if a person who has suicidal ideation um, is in more danger or at an emergency point is to ask if they have access to lethal means. And lethal means could be almost anything, right? Um, Especially if a person knows how to use it or has a plan to use it. But we want to have some idea if they have access to lethal means. Another risk factor is knowing a person who has died by suicide, especially a family member. When working with young people in school, that's another area, that's another thing that teachers, educators, people who work in school systems want to be aware of. If a student dies by suicide, who are their friends? Who are their closest allies? Because what we want to make sure is those individuals, the survivors, the surviving friends and family, get the support that they need so that they can get through the crisis in a way that allows them to go on with their lives. Ah, oh, sorry, excuse me, I dropped it. Okay, you probably heard that sound. That is my timer. 11 minutes, 11 minutes have passed. And again, according to the statistics from 2023, One person every 11 minutes died by suicide based on the data that was collected in 2023. Okay, another risk factor, social isolation. That's one of the reasons I said it's really important for an individual to be connected to a community, connected to individuals that they know, that they like, that they trust, because social isolation is a risk factor. Chronic disease and disability is another risk factor for possible death by suicide. And then lack of access to behavioral health care. When individuals cannot get to get the mental health treatment and care that they need, that is a risk factor. And that's a community issue. I'm just going to say it. It's a community issue when individuals cannot get the health care that they need. And access could be a number of things. If a person cannot afford the health care, they don't have access. If a person can't get to the health care, they don't have access. In the region in which I live, there's no public transportation. And so unless a person can drive to the healthcare center or the mental health center, they can't access the services. So access is really big. It could be, and it could be based on finances. It could be based on transportation. It could be based on a number of things. It could be based on an individual's lack of understanding as well. So lack of access to behavioral health care is a risk factor. Well, what can counteract these risk factors? Here's the third fact that will help you save a life. Those facts are protective factors. Protective factors are personal and environmental characteristics that help protect people from suicide. And let's talk about that. Protective factors include access, availability, and effectiveness of behavioral health care. Access, availability, and effectiveness of behavioral health care. I've worked in mental health systems for a long time, 30 years, y'all. And we can have a behavioral health care center, but it doesn't mean that it's effective. A lot of the community behavioral health systems, care systems that we have are overworked. They have a lot of patients, and they don't always have the stability that's needed in order to really attend to the patients. So they do what the basic. They just do bare minimum because that's all they can do. That's what I mean by effectiveness. They have to be effective. But access is also important. Another protective factor, connectedness. You heard me say this. People need to be connected to other people, to their family, to the community, to social institutions like their church, their synagogue, their mosque, their sangha, where they can have those social interactions, where they're seeing people, where they're interacting with people, where people are supporting them. We are healthier. I keep saying this. We are healthier when we are in a community. We are healthier. We just are. We are healthier. I can't say that enough. We're healthier. We are not healthy when we are splintered. And think about it. Think about what's going on now in our world. There are a number of people who are on edge, a number of people who are anxious, a number of people who are worried and concerned about what's going to happen, a number of people who are out of work, so finances is a big thing for them, a number of people whose lives have been turned upside down because they can no longer work where they're working and they have to move somewhere else in order to maintain their job. There's so much going on in the world and in our communities. Families are splintered, they're not talking to each other, and people are sick. They're sick. They're sick emotionally, they're sick mentally, and it's affecting them physically. We need to be connected. We are social beings. Remember, a risk factor is social isolation. We are social beings. We thrive when we are in a community. We are healthier when we are in a community. Where we are right now is unsustainable. We can't sustain it. We really can't. We can't sustain it because we're on edge. Like this. It's not sustainable. So, connectedness is a protective factor. Having the ability to problem solve, having the ability to cope with whatever is going on around us, having the ability to adapt to change is a protective factor. And we can learn those things. We can learn those. Some people are resilient. Some people are just, they just have those abilities naturally. But these are things that can be learned. These are things that I teach. I'm doing a group right now. And that's one of the things that I'm teaching. I'm teaching how our thoughts affect how we feel, which in turn affect our behaviors. And the group members are like, yeah, that's right. But all of that, the way we think, if we're in fight or flight mode, this is one of the things we talked about extensively in this group, that if we're in fight or flight mode, we're back here. This part of our brain is what's working. And that's what's known as the primitive part of our brain, the amygdala. It's working. Fight or flight. We can't think. That's what this part of the brain is, the part that thinks. So if we're in fight or flight, we can't think because we're trying to survive. And when people are on edge and anxious, they don't think well. It takes longer and it's harder and it gets us tired. So protective factors are, one of the protective factors is our ability to problem solve, to cope, have coping skills, and the ability to adapt to change. As you all know, that I meditate, and that has helped me to stay from this part of my brain, fight or flight, and utilize this part of my brain where I can think. Okay. Another, because I'm coming close to time, another protective factor is self-esteem, a sense of purpose, having a resilient spirit, and a positive outlook. Things could go on around us, and if we allow it to affect us in a negative way, it will affect often that positive outlook. We also need to feel good about ourselves, and so many people don't feel good about themselves. We need to feel good about ourselves, and that's where therapy comes in, because therapy can help you to see the good in you that is inherent in you. And I use that term, good in you. It helps you to see who you are and appreciate who you are. whoever you are. That's a better way to say that. Another protective factor: cultural, religious, or personal beliefs that discourage death by suicide. Having those beliefs help to discourage death by suicide. These are three basic principles, basic, um, basic. This is three. These are three areas, basic areas of information that I think are important for you to know as we go on this journey and talk about how to be helpful, as well as to have how to have an understanding and information that can help us help others and perhaps help ourselves. We've been talking about three useful facts about suicide that will help you save a life. Shared facts by numbers. I also shared risk factors as well as protective factors. I want to thank all of you for coming, all of you for listening. I also want to thank those of you who are going to be watching the replay. All right, we're going to be talking about this all month, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you. I look forward to seeing you on the stream. That's all for now. I'm Marcyline Bailey. As always, take good care.